Hello and welcome to another episode of Steelfur Speaks with me, of course, Steelfur. I don't know who else you guys are expecting at this point, but that's the intro and I'm kind of sticking with it. Today, we are here to just look at some gameplay. We're going to dive straight in. This is some more Levia. Levia versus Katsu. I said in the end of my video, who wants some more Levia? And lots of people were unsurprisingly like, yeah, no, we actually want more Levia. So I am definitely in the vein of giving the people what they want. We're not going to watch all 45 minutes of this video. We're just going to kind of skip until we can see what's going on. So I'm going second, playing with my dice for no good reason, really. This is not a great hand, as you can tell, for going second. I have 3 Deadwood Rumblers, which is kind of literally... This is why if you win the roll, you go first. But yeah, I didn't really have a choice at this point in time, so I was just like, okay, cool. And then on my turn, I was like, well, I'm definitely going to block. I'll take one. Letting him draw from Mask on turn 1, not so terrible. What can you do? This turn is a question. Do I scab skins? I did, and it rolled a 1. So I was a bit disappointed by that, because obviously I had massive amounts of Deadwood Ramblers, so I probably shouldn't have rolled Scab Skins. I should have just attacked with the Deadwood Rumbler. I got greedy, but then because I rolled Scab Skins, I kind of had to follow through, and because I needed to get these Deadwood Rumblers out of my hand or I was dead. So this is a big misplay, which will define the rest of the game, because I won't have my Gambler's Gloves for late game. And you'll see me essentially going in with an 8 strength Deadwood Rambler, because the logic is that if it hits, I can draw a card, and I can then use that card to... Basically, Deadwood Rumbler will pay for anything else in my deck. So by using Plunder Run, I can essentially draw a card with the 8, because Aggro Katsu isn't going to want to block. And if I get a second attack, then I can pitch Deadwood Rumbler and come in with it. And suddenly I've got 3 cards in my graveyard and things are looking quite good. So, yeah, interestingly, that Command and Conquer shouldn't have been banished. No, it should have. I didn't want to take a Blood Debt this turn. That's fine. So you can see a little bit of a misplay. So I shouldn't have rolled the Scab Skins. I should have just gone in with the Deadwood Rumbler, Arsenal the Plunder Run, and then I would have had 1 3-block card in my hand. But, that's part of the learning process with this deck, which is why... I've said before, when I'm doing these deck tech videos, I don't mind if I've made a mistake in the game and I talk through what happened. Because ultimately, this is part of this is part of how I teach people, how I show people how to play the deck that I'm playing, which is by explaining when I make a misplay. So the misplay this time was rolling the Scab Skins when I had 3 Deadwood Rumblers in hand. Perfectly acceptable to just play 1 attack for 6. 1 attack for 8, sorry. Arsenal the Plunder on blue. And end my turn having threatened an 8 attack into Katsu, which is very good, and gotten rid of 2 of the 0 blocks out of my hand. I got greedy, and I paid the punishment for it, and had to use my Gambler's Gloves. And I'm not even going to use all 3 of my action points this game, which is the bigger travesty. So let's just jump ahead to when he decides to block. We were playing a bit slowly at that point, so, yeah, he comes in with a block for 4 and a flick flack for 8. So he's fully blocking that, which is a shame. I Arsenal the Deadwood Rumbler, which is fine. I just want to get more cards in my hand. Though Arsenaling a blue, I think in this game is actually usually a mistake. You don't run very blue heavy, so it can be very awkward if you Arsenal a blue to do what you need to do. So if I had kept that blue, I would have drawn a blue and these reds, and I probably could have played this turn differently. As it is, we're in a bit of a tricky situation because I've drawn 2 pulpings, and I've only drawn 6 of block, and he's come in with a red Plunder Run and a Whelming Gust Wave, which I literally can't block unless I want to husk. Now, he has no cards in hand, so actually, if I take this... It's not the end of the world, but I should probably just husk. But instead I'm blocking 3 so I can attack him next turn, which I don't think is the right decision. And he's going to draw a card. I think he discards this card to get the Whelming Gust Wave. No, he doesn't. He Arsenal, so I'm not in too bad shape at that point. It's just really the question is what I do. I've got 1 blood debt, so it's probably not terrible to to do what I'm going to do. I draw a Pulping, I ditch a Wrecker Romp, so this does have Go Again. You can see how different my turn would have been if I had kept that blue as sort of a backup. And I think arsenaling a blue, even if it's a Deadwood Rumbler, is actually a mistake in this game. The only exception is probably Dread Screamer. It's a good idea to arsenal blue Dread Screamer. But I came in for 6 with Dominate. He took it. I have some decent blocks in my hand now. My graveyard is decently full. And I could potentially block with the Dread Screamer and then come in with a Dread Screamer Boneyard Marauder. I think my graveyard is stacked enough for that. With Go Again and have a really strong turn. So, I'm not in a terrible situation here. If I keep the 2 blues, I could Dread Screamer and then Deadwood Rumbler. And that would be 6 and 6 with more discard into the graveyard. So either way, I've got a pretty promising strong hand here with the potential for some block. But because it's Katsu, I can't really plan on doing any of that blocking. So really, actually, my goal for this turn, if possible, is just to pitch I and use Deadwood Rumbler to keep stacking my graveyard. Because I don't want that much blood debt yet. I want to actively stop it. So you see I just block 6. And I'm kind of just fine with whatever happens now. I'm okay with shutting him down and coming back at him for 6. Katsu doesn't like blocking. He's going to want to take damage to put the aggro on. And that's fine with me. So I'm going to take the 1. He'll leave his card arsenaled. And one of the things about this deck is you're not... Because you've got a lot of non... So he's just lost a card, so let's just skip ahead a little bit. Because you've got a non-blood debt card, you don't necessarily have to build up blood debt that early. In fact, it's really good to not play your blood debt card super early and to focus on things like, Dread Screamers, things like that. Not Dread Screamers, Deadwood Rumblers, things like that. So coming with the Deadwood Rumbler, I've just got to decide what to pitch. I actually think in this situation I'm getting rid of the Command and Conquer, but I should have got rid of the Soul Harvest. I just was burned earlier by not having a blue, so I decided to leave the Soul Harvest there. When actually I think the best move is to leave the Command and Conquer there. So that comes in for 6. I banish the Command and Conquer, and then I don't get another blood debt, but I also don't take blood debt, so it's win-win. And then I draw too many blues. So if I had left the red, I would have been able to Command and Conquer, which would have been better. But hindsight is 2020, and this deck does run a good ratio of blues and reds, so it is a tricky call as to which you're going to do when. So we see the banish of the red Whelming Gust Wave, which tells me he has a very good hand, and the Art of War for +1/+1. And then we're going to see Surging Strike coming in for 6, which is troubling. Almost definitely something to block. It's a good time to use Husk, really, with a hand like this. Because if I rolled Scabskins now, I could actually come in for a very solid, 6 and 2. With just, so pitch a blue, play Wrecker Romp, discard a random card. It's not a bad turn. To be honest, though, it's not an amazing turn. So really what I should have done is actually just blocked. Again, I should have just blocked with 2 cards, come in for 6 again, kept the Husk for next turn. I don't know why I'm deciding here. It's obviously the blue. Unless I'm thinking I'm going to play Soul Harvest. I think this is the game I played Soul Harvest way too early. Yeah, that's what it was. So one of the reasons that I lost this game was I let my blood debt build up way too quickly. And I played my Soul Harvest way too early. But you'll see it did do a decent chunk of damage when I played it. So it's not like it's a waste. It's just why. The other thing, so I played Soul Harvest at this particular point in time because I had 3 out of 10 non-blood debt cards in my graveyard. So the odds were that Soul Harvest was going to come in for at least 5. Because well over half of the cards in my deck were well over half of the cards in my graveyard were blood debt. So I was thinking, okay, we'll come in for maybe like 11 or something, but you'll see I actually hit every single one of the 3 non-blood debt cards, and the 4 cards remaining are all blood debt. So that was a bit sad. Still coming in for 9, so it was still strong. And obviously, because I didn't hit all that blood debt, then I only have 6 blood debt in my graveyard, in my my banish zone, which is kind of okay. But I've kind of given up a lot of the fuel in my graveyard for a 9 strength attack, which isn't really what I wanted. You see all those 4 blood debt cards just sitting there taunting me. A little bit of randomness from our Levia. Coming in for 9, which I think he just takes. Yeah. Just let me check. Yeah, he just takes it down to 20. Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, Kadachi's me. I'm going to take that. I'm 10 health ahead now, and I've got a pretty aggressive turn with 2 cards. So I'm actually feeling pretty good about taking the damage here. Because I'm good at pulping, and then I'm probably going to be able to do something else. Though, actually, I think probably the answer here is just to block. I think my turn here basically is to play this Hungry Slaughter Beast so I don't take my blood debt damage, and arsenal the pulping for next turn. The problem with that is that I can literally only block 4, and he has successfully Rising Knee Thrusted. Sorry, not Rising Knee Thrust, leg tap, so he's going to get his Rising Knee Thrust and come in for 5. And I just have to take it because pulping doesn't block, which is a bit unfortunate. So I'll take the 5 down to 24. And, you know, he's eroding my lead a bit, but I'm still pretty confidently in the lead. He draws a card off Mask because, yeah, he can. And then I'm in for a bit more hurt. Let's just see. So we can skip, sorry. So I don't know if he does something else. I think he just Kodachis here. Just for an extra 1. Oh, it's spoiler season. Everyone is going on for spoilers. We have just had the legendary Majestic card spoiled for Vault Haven. And, like, I really hate singleton design. So, you know, that's a thing. So he comes in with a head jab, razor reflex, so hits me for 6. Definitely feeling the pain after that one. Especially because, obviously, I now need to banish something, so I can't play the pulping. But it's still a decent turn, so I'm going to come in for 6. I'm going to banish 3 cards. Not that it doesn't trigger anything, but it does let me, you know. And that blood debt counter keeps going up. So coming in for 7. I mean, it's a decent threat. I think it will force the Katsu player to block a little bit, unless he's got a really good hand. Yeah, legendary staples. Like, legendary is a bad keyword for a very simple reason. Either it is overpowered and therefore balanced by being one of in a deck that's not balanced, that's just variance, or it's underpowered and people don't want to play it. Like, the only reason that this deck runs Soul Harvest really is that it's a blue 6 attack. That's the only reason. Like, it's not because it's an amazing card. You saw it do 9 damage there, but Endless Maw does 9 damage. But it's a blue 6 that can potentially come in for 12. And with a perfect hand, you could theoretically dominate it, and it would be gorgeous. But it never happens. Here you go, another awkward hand, where thankfully I have 3 cards that can block, but unfortunately if I block with all of those cards, I literally can't attack. There are some awkward cards, and Aggro Katsu is a hard matchup for this deck because of that, in my opinion. You kind of just have to block when you can, try and take the hits. if one of these had been a blue, I would have been really happy because I essentially could have, basically could have just come in twice and, you know, had a very good time. As it is, I probably am just going to try and tank the damage and then pulping into another big attack and bring him down to my HP. Because I don't have a choice, right? Because the safe play here is Mark of the Beast, but, you know, ultimately I can't necessarily play safe the entire time. So he goes leg tap hits, he surging strikes me. You know, there's not much you can do about that. I can't take 8 blood debt here, but I also don't have a choice. Yeah. And I take the damage to turn on my skull cap. I take another 1. He draws a card. Draws 2 cards even. And you see now why I'm in a bit of a rough situation. I probably used Husk too early. And I'm probably just slightly bit unlucky with the draws. But I'm still bringing Katsu down to me every round, which means that in another game, in a rematch, I'd be a lot more confident that maybe I can put the pressure on Katsu. Similar to how I did versus Chain in the other games. Now really I have the difficult choice. I play Pulping and then hope to discard and draw, but really that's not a safe option, and that's the main problem. So I'm willing to leave Pulping there until I get a blue and just play Endless Maw. The only problem with Endless Maw, instead of pulping into something else, if I drew something, is that Endless Maw is only coming in for 9. So he can actually take all of this damage and just hit me back and try and kill me, which he can probably do. But thankfully, I don't know if I have any 0 blocks in my hand. There aren't that many left in the deck, so I'm not super worried about it. But it's just a challenge, right? There's no major threat if I'm not dealing lethal to him this turn when I'm on 6 health. And that's the real problem at this point in the game, just due to 1 or 2 bad hands. And also, you'll notice I haven't really had a power turn. I haven't had a Blood Rush Bellow. I haven't had an Art of War. And one of the things that this deck kind of does need, to a certain extent, is to get one of those cards. And we are about 30 cards into the deck, and I haven't seen a single Blood Rush Bellow or Art of War that could be used. So this game is actually quite, I would say, bad variance for me, because, you know, if I get an Art of War and I choose Go Again, I can skip all this fancy rigmarole and just smack him twice without having to worry about maybe I don't get Go Again from the pulping because he can block it, maybe X, maybe Y. So he gets to block for 5 and sink below to get an even better aggro turn. One thing we have, something that some Ninja players have been testing is the idea of the sink below for the aggro deck, because it lets you set up a better aggro turn than Flick Flack does. It's a tricky call. I'm not sure what I think the right decision is there. He's on 11. I have a decent aggressive hand if I can avoid taking too much damage, but that's going to be a tall order given that he's got 4 cards. So we're just going to have to kind of see what we can do. I still have the pulping in my arsenal, and I actually genuinely, after playing this game, I think putting a pulping in arsenal instead of a card that can banish is actually a very, very big misstep in terms of this game and this deck, because it is very hard to... I won't show you how long's left in the video because that's spoilers, but it's very hard to keep yourself alive if you have a pulping banished, because essentially you just don't have a choice, right? Now, I made a mistake here. I should have banished the Dread Screamer. Sorry, I should have blocked with the Ghostly Visit. I think I catched it in a second and just changed my block. Yeah, I do. I dragged the wrong card because I didn't want to block with the Dread Screamer. So then he comes in with a Fine Center and a thing, but I am still alive, which is good. And ultimately, I don't have many options here as to what to do. I pretty much just have to play the Dread Screamer, unfortunately. because otherwise I don't turn Levia off, because my blood debt is quite large at this point. But it's still not a bad option. I'm just playing the Dread Screamer, do some banishes. If I banish the Ghostly Visit, which is what I was hoping for. So basically, in this situation, I had 6 cards in my graveyard. I had blocked with the Ghostly Visit, which I was hoping to banish. And if I had banished the Ghostly Visit, I could do 6 and 4, which would actually have put a lot of pressure on. You see, there's only 5 cards there. So I missed that as well. So this is not the very good variance game for me. But I'm still coming in for 6. I think he can just take this because he's then got 4-card hand. But I think he's worried about what comes next. The answer, my friend, is nothing is coming next. So he just takes 3. But at least Blood Debt is not turned on. Then we draw the Doomsday, and finally we get a Blood Rush Bellow, but it's too late to do anything with. And if he's got a Razor Reflex, I'm dead. So I kind of just have to take the damage and take the gamble now. If he comes in with a second Kodachi, I have to block it. So, things are a bit rough. It's like, what do you block with here? Because I need to banish something. So really, I should have kept the Dread Screamer. I don't know why I blocked with it. But then he comes in with the Command and Conquer. And I can't do anything. So I lose. Yeah. But what I'm trying to explain just by playing through this matchup is that, like, there's a lot of... there's just a lot of variance, really, in terms of... I need to draw well. I need the Blood Rush Bellows turns. This turn I'm going first, so I'm just trying to think, what do I do with myself? And if I get a Blood Rush Bellow turn 1, I'm either going to Arsenal it for an awesome turn 2, or I'm just going to go ham. And the thing is, in Rhinar, you do kind of need to set up that big turn. But in Levia, you kind of want to stack your graveyard. So it doesn't actually matter if you just start discarding cards early game, or even if you burn and have a really powerful turn 1. Because you do need to get that graveyard stacked. Though in this situation, I do think I was being a little bit greedy. But we'll see if it pays off. So I draw 2 cards, drawing them physically there for some reason. I don't know why. And it is a bad draw, I would say, to a certain extent. So I can at least clause for 10, which is, great. And then Arsenal and Art of War, which is just not bad. Or I can clause and Dread Screamer, which, again, it kind of like on turn 1, it kind of depends how they're blocking. So if he overblocked the 5, then I would have definitely got... So what has happened before on Blood Rush Bellows, because 5 is an awkward number, is people have double blocked the 5 and 5, and then I've hit them for 8, which has always been a good turn. So, it's kind of cool when that comes together on turn 1. You can deal actually some quite good damage. For this turn, I think my focus, given that I don't have that many cards in my graveyard, was just playing the Deadwood Rumbler, just coming in for 8. I just needed that 8. But I do have the Art of War, so I think actually I was willing to just take the damage this turn. Yeah, because this is like block for 4, so he doesn't get the Whelming trigger, and then force him to use Braces if he wants to, which he didn't because it's very early game. So that's kind of a very good block there. And the Surging put me below for that health, which is great. And then I've got my turn where I can pitch a Beast Within, play an Art of War, banish a Deadwood Rumbler because it's the most expensive. And if I draw a blue here, then I can go Dread Screamer, Graveling Growl. And I didn't, which really just messed with my entire plan. Thankfully, I had chosen Go Again from the... I think I had chosen Go Again from the Art of War, which means that I have 3 cards in my graveyard now. So I can come in with the Graveling Growl because I've already banished the Deadwood Rumbler. I put that in my graveyard instead of my pitch zone. I think I noticed that in a second. Yeah, I definitely noticed that in a second. I hope. No, I do. I definitely do. I'm sure I do. Yeah, so I noticed that. But what I yeah, so my mistake actually was that I didn't need to pitch the Dread Screamer. This is why being tired is not so good. So I didn't need to pitch the Dread Screamer. I already had one resource floating, which paid for the Graveling Growl from the Beast Within. So that was fine. That was paid for. Um, and then these late night games, you always tend to make at least one mistake, but you fix them because your opponent and you are both like capable of playing the game. Um, so he took 7, which is obviously a huge number to take. And then I had to decide, basically, and this is an interesting point just to pause for a second. So in this situation, the Katsu player has just taken 7 damage, has a 5-card hand, and I have to decide, do I Arsenal a Dread Screamer, or do I play Command and Conquer? Now, thinking about what's on the table, my opponent has indicated to me that he really likes his hand for dealing me damage. Because otherwise he's not taking 7, otherwise he's blocking, and he's just going to deal me back as much as he can. He's not going to go in with the full 7 damage block, with the full 7 damage take. Which means also it kind of indicates to me that he likes his Arsenal card as well. Because, you know, everything, when you're playing Katsu and you keep a 5-card hand, rather than at least blocking some, then you kind of have a good indication that that hand is really aggro. Which means that I make the decision to discard, pitch both of these cards. Also, because I don't really want to build up my blood debt just yet. I don't have a huge graveyard. So I don't really want to play the Boneyard Marauder. I just want to pitch 2 cards and play a Command and Conquer. Now, this will either force him to block or force him to take 6 damage and lose his Arsenal card, which is huge versus Aggro Katsu. They hate losing their Arsenal. I guarantee you there is a useful combo card in there or a Plunder Run, and he's going to really dislike losing that. So I get to push ahead with that plan. And we see that he... sorry. I'll stop skipping ahead now because there's only 10 minutes left. I just didn't want to spend a full 40 minutes reviewing this video when there's a lot of points where we're talking in the background and thinking a lot. But he blocks for 1, takes 5, loses an Art of War, which I'm delighted by, keeps a 4-card hand, which is very interesting. But again, I'm 11 life ahead, so things are going quite well. I've also got a Pulping and a Ghostly Visit, which is actually quite a good turn when you've already got 1 Blood Debt. So I can block for 3. I've also got the Husk, and then come in with a Pulping and a Ghostly Visit, maybe. That would be a really good turn. Though, likely is I'd discard the Ghostly Visit with the Pulping. So actually, maybe my best turn here is actually just to do the Deadwood Rumbler, or do the Pulping and then just, you know, get another card in my graveyard. It's a bit of an awkward turn because I've only got 2 blocks. But equally, just keeping the blues and doing the Pulping is fine. If you've only got 1 Blood Debt, it's fine. And that's probably what I do here. So I block for 6, I imagine, to stop the Whelming Gust, the Surging Whelming combination. Though, of course, if he has Surging naturally, which he probably does, given how he was holding onto his hand, then maybe I should have blocked differently. But I can't really afford for him to get a Lord of Wind combo turn off. So, you know, I think blocking the 6 is the right decision. And I think that's what I went with in the game. We'll just see in a second. Oh, it's getting late. Traveling up to a Road to Nationals tomorrow. Super excited. Recording this on Thursday, so I'm traveling up on Friday. And it is just going to be epic. I'm actually currently trying to decide whether I play Levia or I play Katsu. I have a feeling I will be playing Katsu, just because it's my... Basically, with the Lexi spoilers the way they are, I'm really feeling like there's going to be a big push towards... what am I trying to say? Control. And I may not be able to play Aggro Katsu again. I might not be able to play Levia either, but, you know, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. So he comes in with a Surging Whelming and a Kodachi and a Scar for Scar, and I'm kind of committed at this point because none of my cards can block, and I don't really want to give up the Husk for a Scar for Scar. So I let him have the Mask Trigger. He wasn't on more life, so, you know. So it's not terrible. So I'm going to take 1 blood debt, which is fine. And I'm going to come in with the surging whelming. Sorry, with the pulping. Maybe getting dominate, maybe not. Oh, a beast within. Very nice. Okay. So I have 1 floating. I have a beast within. I banish a pulping into my hand, which is not great, but it will go in the arsenal, so that's fine. Lose 1 life. Beast Within's a great card. And of course, Beast Within turns off Levia, so I save myself 1 life as well, which is fantastic. So then Pulping has Dominate, which we're all excited about. Again, he takes the 6 damage because he's got a 5-card hand, and he's got the Tunic counter, so he's planning on laying the smack. I have a really good aggro hand, if I can keep my hand somehow, because I can go Dread Screamer, Pulping, maybe into Boneyard Marauder, which would be huge. So I'm kind of just going to wait and see, I think, how that goes. I kind of want to see if I can survive this turn and then do that big turn with the Pulping into the Dread Screamer. Well, Dread Screamer into Pulping into Boneyard Marauder, assuming I don't get that discarded. But even if that does get discarded, I'll have 2 resources, which can play most of the attacks in my deck, so that would actually be really good at this point. But let's see what the Katsu player comes in with. He comes in with a head jab. Do you know the consideration here is I might block with the Boneyard Marauder, just because it's not the key part of my strategy this turn. The key part of my strategy is the Dread Screamer and the blues. So I could block with the Boneyard Marauder and just do 2 6 attacks, which would still be good. Like, it would be basically in my head. I'm probably thinking if I banish the Ghostly Visit, then I can play that because I've only still got 6 cards in my graveyard, so I can banish the Ghostly Visit. Now I'm going to give him the Husk because if he hits me with the leg tap, he can fetch the Rising Knee Thrust, red, and then hit me for 5, and I have to Husk that anyway. As it is, he only had the blue, so I just take 3, and life is good. Yep. And life is good. So we just play the Dread Screamer here, I hope. I hope I'm not trying to do anything silly. No, why am I playing the Pulping? This makes no sense. I have 0 reason to play this Pulping now. I'm just going to take 2 Blood Debt for no reason. Okay, so this was a misplay. Easily to straight up call it after the game. I should have just gone in with a Dread Screamer. And then tried to banish that Ghostly Visit that's in my graveyard and come in for another 4. Happy to leave the Pulping there until he gets very low so that a Dominate turn will actually kill him. Whereas just taking 3 life from Blood Debt doesn't really seem to make any sense to me. And he can just take 6 and I'll just lose 3 life. So this is just a bad move, I would say. I don't know what I was really hoping for from this. Obviously I can Arsenal the Slaughter Beast, but I could have left the Pulping in Arsenal. That would have been fine. Yeah, so I don't know what my deal was there. Yeah, it was just a mistake. Have I forgotten to take my Blood Debt as well? I was playing this game quite late at night, which is why I recorded it and why I'm doing the commentary now. But obviously, you can't be making mistakes like forgetting Blood Debt. Just taking 4, mate. I'm just taking 4. I need to get an aggro turn on you. I need to get a plunder. Basically, on my turn, I need to Pulping into the Hungering Slaughter Beast. That's literally the only option I have. And to do that, I need 4 resources. So I should block for 3 at some point. I'm stopping the Kodachi with that, which is good. He's coming in for E-Strike. I should just block for 3. I think he's giving it go again, though, which was scary. So I take the 5, and then he comes in with the Command and Conquer, which is kind of like, ouch. All she wrote. Because I don't need that card, but I do need the life that card gets me. But I think at that point, I've just taken it because, I mean, what other choice did I have, really? And then we do make a bit of a mistake here, because I roll the scab skins, which is fine. I kind of needed to do this, but the reason I needed to do this was to play the Slaughter Beast first, and I think I play the Pulping first, and I discard... Oh, no, I don't. Okay, good. That was another game I played. Another game I played, I discarded the... Basically, I played Pulping first, ditched the Hungering Slaughter Beast, drew something random, and then I couldn't actually turn off my Blood Debt, and I died. So that's just something to be aware of, a potential misplay, where you can sort of do that kind of... Yeah, that kind of mistake. Spoiler season. I do love it. So he blocks for 3, takes 4, and then I just have to decide what to hit him with for my second attack. I personally think at this point it makes sense absolutely to do the Pulping. Just to get a block out of my hand, a 0 block out of my hand. Yeah, go on. Or Command and Conquer. I mean, if he's got a defense reaction, Command and Conquer can fuck him up. Sorry, shouldn't swear. Can mess with him, seriously. Yeah, I'm just trying to decide which is better, which is more aggressive. I only have 4 Blood Debt, which is good. Good. I think I ultimately just choose the Pulping because it has Dominate. And then I give it Dominate. No resources floating, so no go again. Relevant. And you can see I get the blocks now because he's starting to get quite low. And he very smartly, and this is a very smart play, he very smartly blocks with the Tunic because the Tunic blocking keeps him out of Savage swing range, which is of course a very, very bad place to be. Right, a very bad place to be. I'm blocking the Kodachis because I'm terrified of a Razor Reflex, but then I realize I probably can't stop the Razor Reflex anyway if it happens. So I just have to let it go. And then he comes in with a Whelming Blue, and I'm... Basically, this is a massive mistake, because I say okay, and then he has Ancestral, and he has Breaking Scales, at which point I just lose the game. So I 100% should have just blocked and Command and Conquered. Yeah. I should have just blocked and then played Command and Conquer with the Blood Rush, with the Eye of Ophidia. Yeah. And he drew a... Yeah, well, he drew a Flusterfist, so it wouldn't have mattered, because I would die to Blood Debt anyway. So he just went wide enough to kill me here in the end. But you can see how close this game was, and Aggro Katsu is one of the best decks in the format. And yet here Levia is just actively, like, you know, smacking him around, doing some power turns, getting him down low health, and ultimately just losing because the equipment ran out and the blocks ran out versus the wide, which is how a lot of people lose to Aggro Katsu. But, you know, when you play a game like this with this deck, you really sit there and you're like, actually, you know, if I can play a game like this with Levia versus one of the best decks in the format, how is Levia not actually good? Let me turn off these bits. You know, which is why my assertion that I made in the last video of, I think if Levia had started with lots of support in the start of the Road to Nationals meta, if more people have been playing her and more people have played this deck, then it would probably have won a Road to Nationals by now. But I think the problem with Levia in some ways is the art theme does turn a lot of people off, and also those you know, also she is more complicated, And like Chain, there was a step where people started to play Levia with all of her blood debt, but unlike Chain, it was much, much more punishing if you played with all the blood debt than Chain was. And basically, they didn't make it to the stage where Chain then got to, where people realized that actually 60 to 50% of your deck being blood debt was more than enough, which is kind of where this Levia deck is at now. It has enough blood debt to guarantee that you're going to be able to banish cards consistently from the mid-game to fuel very powerful effects like Dread Screamer, Endless Maw, Hungering Slaughterbeast, Gravel and Growl, but it doesn't have so much that you can't take turns off in the early game to Bloodrush Bellow, Wrecker Romp, Deadwood Rumbler, and have those effects miss and only lose 1 to 2 life while you're building up your graveyard. And then when you get into late game, you have that massive graveyard to fuel mid game, even to fuel those massive pushes and those big turns where you're attacking twice, 3 times. You know, you're talking Bloodrush Bellow into 2 Claw Swings, into Dread Screamer for 8, or Endless Maw for 11. You know, or these massive hits if you draw the right cards off those big swingy cards like Bloodrush Bellow and Art of War. So I think it does have that potential to just push through the damage in these massive spikes that aggro decks hate because they don't want to block them. But if they don't block them, they end up so far behind on health that you don't really have an option, which is why Levia is actually a really good decision. And I'm actually very, very upset that the Road to National season is over and the Monarch meta is finished, because I think if this deck had come to light 3 weeks ago even, or 2 weeks ago, I think we could have convinced a lot more people to take this deck into a heavy Chain, heavy Katsu meta, and it would actually have done very, very well, which is why I am taking this with me tomorrow. I'm trying to decide whether to play this or my old trusty workhorse Katsu. Obviously, I don't need to win another RTN because I have 1-2 already. It would be nice to try and get a little bit closer to catching up to the guy who's won 4 in America. Sorry, I know you do Arsenal Pass. I know your name. It's either Patrick Hale or Brendan something. I know both of your names, but I can't remember which one is the player and which one does the talker. I know you both play. I'm just, you know what I mean. But I mean, I'm not going to catch up to you with your 4 wins. It would be really nice to get 3 and do some fun stuff with the tunics. But realistically, you know, I don't have to. I could just play Levia, and I may just play Levia. So, and I mean, I'm not going to trust you guys with that decision because I know what you're all going to say. But I do have to make a decision tomorrow. It'll be after you watch this video because this will go live on Friday evening. I will have to make a decision as to which deck I play this evening, and then get a few practice games in, and then go all out at Road to Nationals. And it could very easily be Levia. I think this is genuinely a fantastic deck. I think a lot of people won't see it coming. A lot of people won't sideboard well against it. I think a lot of people will get blown out by it because they'll be surprised how it goes. And it can just have some big turns that you can't block. So there we go. I'm obviously Steelfur. This is Steelfur Speaks. You know, second video I've recorded today. I'm really happy. For those of you who are curious and still watching, I am aiming for a cadence of, at least when there's a lot of stuff happening, maybe 2 to 3 videos a week. I know I've been doing a lot more, just because I had that video that did really well and I wanted to capitalize on the hype of that. And obviously, as we go into spoiler season, there is a lot of things to talk about. I want to do Road to Nationals wrap-ups and stuff like that. But when the Road to Nationals season ends, the spoiler season ends, there'll be some videos about sealed tails and drafting tails and all that kind of stuff. There'll be some episodes on the skirmish season or whatever we get after that. But I may slow down a little bit and go down to like 2 videos a week, 3 videos a week. Because as I said, you know, when I started this channel, my first sort of 250, 300 subscribers have heard me say it a few times. I very much am into talking about this game when I have things to talk about. I'm not the sort of person who's going to put out a weekly video with, you know, 10 things you didn't know about blah, you know, no. I like talking about game design. I like talking about business models because I'm a business analyst in my real life. And I like talking about metas and strategies and decks are cool and things like that. I don't like talking when I don't have things to talk about. So expect to see over the next month, there's obviously going to be a deck tech and a first brew of every single one of the decks as we go into Road to Nationals. If I find something particularly strong or spicy, I may not share it straight away. Remember, the UK Nationals is happening first, so whatever I take to Nationals will probably get a video about it very shortly after the Nationals tournament, which other people can then take to their Nationals if it did well. But I may keep that brew a little bit close to my chest with my testing group, just to respect all the work we put in until the point that I've played it at a tournament, and then I'll happily do the deep dive all out talking about it, because also I don't want to give you guys the wrong information. I don't want to brew a deck that my testing groups thinks great, take it to Nationals, absolutely tank, and then I've told everyone that it's amazing and you've been practicing it. I'd much rather... I'll be doing videos where I do first takes and ideas and suggestions, but I probably won't be going through finalized lists and deck techs until I've actually have a proven deck in front of me that I can put some results behind and actually give you guys some good guidance on. And then the whole thing everything will come out of that. I'll do gold fishing, I'll do match reports and video recordings of the decks, the top decks from our nationals, and I'll do coaching sessions and things like that based on the results from the UK Nationals as the rest of the national season rolls out. So that's what you can expect from me over the next few months. Maybe a bit of a slowdown after spoiler season. I'm going to do a massive big what this means for the meta spoiler review of the various cards, probably next week, just because I've got a Road to Nationals to go to tomorrow. And then once I've done that, I'll cool off a bit until there's another load of spoilers and then review them together. Because I'm not just going to talk about cards and what they do and is it cool. I'm going to talk about cards and how I think they're going to impact and how they're going to be gameplay-wise, what the power level is, all that kind of stuff, because I think that's the meat of what I want to talk about when it comes to Aria. Okay, thanks all for listening. I hope you like this game. If anyone else wants to play against Levia with me, we can do a live recording and shove it up. That could be fun. Aside from that, have a great evening. Good luck in your tournaments this weekend, and good luck to me in mine as well. Speak to you all soon.